Hello there guys, it's MarthaMew here, and today we have finally got all Dark Order cards revealed. So Dark Order is, as it says here, expected this set will combine into our Sun and Moon 9 set in February. So this isn't the next set, which is in November, it's a set after. So as it says there, it mainly features Lightning, Darkness and Metal type Pokemon, and there are only 52 cards excluding Secret Rares in the set. But they are some pretty cool cards, so let's start from the top. We have a Litten and a Torracat. The Torracat having 90 HP and 60 attack for 3 energy, not especially amazing, but let's move on. Anyway, that's the only 2 fire Pokemon, and that's just because we've got a Incineroar in the set, which is a Dark type. So we have a Zapdos, which is obviously a Lightning Pokemon with 110 HP this time. It seems like it's a holo card. It's got a attack called Assault Thunder with 1 Lightning Energy. You can do 10 damage, and if it became your active Pokemon this turn, it does 70 more, so 80, and its attack's damage isn't affected by weakness. Okay, a little bit annoying, but you know. So then we have Mareep, Flaffy, and then Ampharos. I don't think there's really anything to be said about these cards, to be quite honest. You don't really want to use any of their attacks, considering they seem to discard energy. But the Ampharos is pretty interesting. We're seeing a lot of powerful Stage 2 GXs recently, and it's almost a little bit sad because Stage 2s are and will always be a little bit awkward to play. But in any case, let's have a look at Ampharos. So Ampharos is a Lightning type. Its HP is 240, which is slightly lower than some of the other Stage 2s, but also a tiny bit higher than some others. And it's got 2 normal attacks. This first one is for 1 Lightning Energy Power Recharge. It does 30 damage, and you can put all Electra Power cards from your discard pile into your hand. Electra Power, when we get to at the end, I do know what it does. It's like an item that you can use that powers up electric type Pokemon attacks by 30 damage during that turn. So it could effectively do 60 damage and then give you back the electric power you used. So yeah, you could end up using all 4 in one turn and then just have that be a really, really powerful 1 Lightning Energy attack. It's basically what they're going for there. And then obviously you get all the electric power cards you used to make it that powerful back to your hand, and then you get the point over and over again. Its second attack is for 2 Lightning Energy Impact Bolt. You can do 150 damage, and you discard all Lightning Energy from this Pokemon. However, there's only 2 on it, and Lightning does have a way of spamming energy. I mean, it's another Stage 2 in my god, the name of the Pokemon has gone. Help!
What?
Magnemite's evolution. What's it? The final evolution? Magnezone. That's it. That's the one. Magnezone. So yeah, you can. That's definitely not bad. 150 damage for 2 energy. It's insane. So its GX attack is actually madness and pretty damn good. So if you do manage to get into Stage 2 pretty quick, you can use this, and you will use it more than likely. So it's Electrical GX. Search your deck for up to 7 Pokemon, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. 7! I feel like you'd probably clean your deck out. It's pretty damn good. You kind of have to be sure that you're not going to get knocked out in the next turn, and you could just basically just power through and keep going, but it's pretty good. For an attack that doesn't actually do damage, I like it. Okay, so then we actually have a Blitzel and Zebstriker. So the Blitzel actually finds 2 Electro Power cards and puts them into your hand with 1 energy attack. Which I guess if you're running this kind of thing, then that's worth it. So actually seeing some half decent electric type Pokemon these days. Nothing's gonna trump Zeraora though for me. So the Zebstriker has Raid, and you can do it for 30 damage, and if it evolved from Blitzel during this turn, it does 90 more. and its second attack for 2 lightning and 1 colourless does 100 damage. Not entirely sure it's worth it, but Emolga has an ability called Cheek Meeting, where once during your turn before your attack, you can search your deck for a Pokemon with Cheek Rubbing attack, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Now, as far as I remember, when I looked at all these, I could only see Emolga with it, but perhaps they're going to be introducing a few more with Cheek Rubbing. So, Cheek Rubbing, what does it do? Well, you flip a coin, and if heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralysed, which isn't particularly amazing, but maybe some of the other cards that have got Cheek Rubbing actually are good. Who knows? Maybe they'll bring back, maybe it'll be Emolga and Raichu GX, and they'll bring a Pikachu that's got Cheek Rubbing, and then you can evolve it into the Raichu GX from Shining Legends. Maybe that's the way it's going to work, instead of using Pachirisu and Snuggly Generator. Okay, so then we have a Joltik and Galvantula. The Joltik is pretty simple, and Galvantula has got an ability called Unnerve, which prevents all effects done to this Pokemon by item or supporter cards played from your opponent's hand. So basically, it can't be Guzma'd, it can't be Enhanced Hammered. Not that you'd want to, because it's only got a 1 energy cost attack. That kind of effect, though, is what I'm going for. Okay, so its 1 energy cost attack is called Spider Sled. It does 40 damage, and you search your discard pile for any card and put it into your hand. So it's a recycler, which because of the electro power, can actually be a little bit scary. It's a 1 energy attack that could technically do about 70 damage, or 70, 100, 130, 160, depending on how many electro powers you can use in one turn. Basically. So yeah, that, and it gets a card back into your hand from the discard pile. It means you could at least definitely keep reusing that 1 electro power card each time. I think that's pretty, it's a out there deck, but it works. So we have a Helioptile, which isn't much to say about, and a Heliolisk. So this Heliolisk has got a 1 energy cost attack called Electric Spark. It does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay, don't apply weakness and resistance for bench, obviously. Then it has a lightning and 2 colourless attack called Volt Switch. Probably does exactly what it says in the game. It does 90 damage, and then you switch it with one of your benched lightning Pokemon. So it gets itself out there. Okay, so then we see our first Prism Star. Now, I sort of ran through these really quickly, and this sort of poked out as me as being really interesting. Obviously, Prism Stars, you can have more than 1 Prism Star with the same name in your deck. And it has an ability called Ancestor's Dance, where once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon's on your bench, you may use this ability. Choose 2 of your other bench Pokemon and attach 1 lightning energy from your discard pile to each of them. Then you put this Pokemon into your lost zone, so you've used it basically. But if you don't have it on your bench and you want to have it inactive, you can use Mach Bolt for 120 damage. It's pretty interesting. It's a one time only lightning energy speed up. So yeah. Okay, so then we have Larvitar and Puputar according to Pokebeach. So there's obviously going to be a Tyranitar, which is a dark type later on, which is why these are here, but they're generally not ever shown as dark types as the first stage evolutions, which are a little bit meh, but I guess at the minute it works with Brooklet Hill, so I guess the people that want to run Tyranitar have that in advantage, I guess. So it looks like Pupitar actually has a half decent attack itself, where it does 30 damage, and if your opponent only has 1 prize card remaining, it does 90 more damage. So if you really can't get to that Tyranitar and you're a little bit behind, then it can put in a little tiny bit of work, I guess. Anyway, so we have a Pancham. So clearly to me that says there's going to be a my god, my Pokemon names have just completely abandoned my brain right now. Pangoro. That's it. This is going to be a Pangoro. So I don't think that's really worth. It's a flip a coin, discard an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. This pair took me by surprise, and I feel like this is really weird. So this Alolan Grimer is suspiciously strong. So for 2 colourless energy, Chemical Breath does 20 plus damage, and it does 50 more damage for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. So I'm just going to throw it out there that Nihilego still exists, and that will instantly, the turn you play this card, put 3 types of conditions on your opponent's active. This little Alolan Grimer is going to hit you for 170 damage if you play that Nihilego this turn. Which is insane to me. It's a Alolan Grimer. Okay, so next is Alolan Muck, and obviously evolves from the Alolan Grimer. So it's got an ability called Starvation Rations. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you can look at up to the top 6 cards of your opponent's deck and discard as many item cards as you find there as you like. Then shuffle remaining cards back into your opponent's deck. So you can basically look and peek and see what's in their deck, which is, you know, fairly good. Also discarding, yeah, it basically enabling Trash Launch a lot as well. I definitely think people are going to be using this Alolan Muck with Trash Launch decks. I don't see why you wouldn't. It basically just does a lot of the hard work for you. Not only doesn't the opponent get to use the item cards, but it's obviously also, you know, putting stuff there that for you to fuel Trash Launch. So its actual attack though doesn't really inspire me very much. 3 energy to do 80 damage and poison them. It's okay, I guess. Okay, so we have the Tyranitar, which has a massive 170 HP for a non-GX Pokemon. It has 2 attacks. Its first attack is 1 Darkness Energy and 2 Colourless Energy, Spinning Tail. It does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. It's a little bit higher of an energy cost if you ask me, for 30 damage to each Pokemon, but then Tyranitar is kind of famous for having big energy cost attacks. Its second attack is a little bit more impressive. It has a 1 Darkness and 3 Colourless cost to do 130 damage, which is a pretty good base damage. Maybe not for 4 energy, but you know. But it also has the effect of, if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Pokemon EX or GX, it can do 100 more damage. So it's basically, that's a lot more in the ballpark. 230 damage. With a choice band on this thing KOs any GX in the game. Let's put that out there. It's also weak to fighting, which is a bit dangerous in the current state, but yeah. And we have a Poochyena and a Mightyena. Poochyena actually looks fairly decent with its 1 colourless attack, Dark Howl, searching your deck for 2 dark Pokemon, putting them into your hand, then shuffling in your deck. It's pretty standard and pretty good. What does the Mightyena do though? So ignoring Bite, it does Evil Fang for 2 energy, 50 damage, discard 1 card from your opponent's hand without looking, so discards a random card. Bit of hand disruption. And we have an Absol with an ability called Dark Annulment. As long as this Pokemon is in play, your opponent's active basic Pokemon's retreat cost is 1 colourless more. And to go along with that, it has its attack called Shadow Seeker, which is 1 dark and 2 colourless, does 30 damage, and it does 30 more damage for each colourless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. And because its ability adds 1 more, you can always basically guarantee that it's going to be doing 60 damage. Pretty cool. Spiritomb. I saw this and immediately knew that this was going to be pretty nuts. Soul Compressor. Search your deck for up to 4 Pokemon and discard them. Then shuffle your deck. I immediately thought, oh my god, Dragonite users are going to love this. Basically, you can just search your deck for however many Dragonites you need to just get rid of and get rid of them. Because it says up to, you can choose to say, okay, well, I've got this Ultra Ball in my hand, I'll use that to find one of them and then discard the others with this thing. Or you can put them all in the drop zone, in the discard pile, and use a rescue structure from hand to get one of them back. And then the other 3 are played from Dragonite's GX attack, Dragon Porter, which just chucks the ones from the discard pile onto the bench. Insane. I thought that Pokemon was pretty nuts. Yeah. Okay, so then we have Zorua and Zoroark. So I don't think this Zorua is going to be the replacement Zorua in any. Well, maybe it is. It's got a 1 energy attack that switches it with one of your bench, so you can get that thing out of there. But yeah, it's only got 60 HP, which is obviously very easy to knock out from a Buzzwole. Okay, so then we have a Zoroark, which has a 1 energy attack called Taunt. Get my words out. Which switches one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with that active. Okay, so then its second attack for 1 dark and 2 colorless, Night Punish, 20 damage times. This attack does 20 damage times the number of Pokemon in your discard pile to a maximum of 10 cards, which is again where Soul Compressor can come in handy. Soul Compressor into there, so 20 times 10 is up to 200 damage, which is a pretty high number. It does therefore have a pretty low HP of 110, which is fairly easy to knock out, especially being a fighting type weakness. Yeah. Anyway, so we have Volby and Mandibuzz. Volby having that lovely draw card effect, and then Mandibuzz. Let's see. So it has Trash Drop. Discard an item card from your hand. If you do, it does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Okay. And that's actually fairly good because it's 60 damage to any Pokemon, just for discarding an item. But it kind of does. If you're against a Trash Lance deck, you definitely don't want to be playing this at all. Its second attack does 120 damage and 30 to itself. Here's that Pangoro we saw coming. It's got a 2 colorless 1 dark energy attack. For Tighten Up, does 60 damage, and your opponent discards 2 cards from their hand. Ooh, bit of disruption there. Bit of disruption, and then it's got a 2 darkness, 2 colorless energy attack, which does 170 damage, which is huge, and it confuses itself. Oh dear. Anyway, so then we have Yveltal finally getting another card. It's got 110 HP. It's obviously a basic Pokemon. It's got a 1 energy attack called Derail, which does 30 damage, and you discard a special energy from your opponent's active, which can be very good. It's got a second attack for 2 darkness energy called Clutch, and does 60 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. I'm pretty sure you can still retreat it using Switch or Guzma, because that's not the retreat cost. It basically means you can't pay the retreat cost. It's also got a free retreat itself, which is pretty good. So it's a get in there, get out kind of, or an easy option to put in active when something's just been knocked out and you don't know what, because it can obviously just get out. Okay, so then we have Hooper GX. It's got 190 HP, which is pretty big for a basic Pokemon. Its first attack is very reminiscent of Sylveon GX. For 1 energy, it does Rogue Ring. You search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. The reason it's not quite so powerful, I guess, is because it's a basic Pokemon and you don't have to evolve it. Because obviously Sylveon gets 3 for 1 energy. Still, 2 cards is pretty good. Its second normal attack, which I love. I love that they're actually making cards with 2 attacks. I say that and then see the Incineroar underneath that only has 1 attack, but let's keep going. So it's got a 3 darkness energy attack called Dark Strike, which does 160 damage, and this Pokemon can't use Dark Strike during your next turn. So that's pretty good that it just specifically says it can't use Dark Strike, and that it just can't, not that it just can't attack, because sometimes that can be a little bit ouch. So its GX attack for the same amount of energy is Devil Hand GX. You can choose 6 of your opponent's GX and EX Pokemon and do 30 damage to each of those Pokemon. 30 isn't a lot, but it can hit the whole board. and we saw earlier that, I can't remember who it was now, but it can do 30 damage to the whole board for 3 energy, so it's basically the same thing, but it's in a GX attack, and only hitting GX and EX. Okay, so Incineroar GX has the 250 HP, which we have grown accustomed to seeing from these sort of starter Pokemon, or like the really big GX stage 2s. It has an ability called Scar Charge, where once during your turn before your attack, you can put 3 damage counters on this Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for up to 3 dark energy and attach them to this Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. I think you'd probably only want to do this once. It does say once during your turn, but I really don't think you'd want to put any more than just those 3 damage counters on it to do that, because when you've done that, it does charge up the Pokemon entirely for both of its other attacks, so I don't think you'd want to do it more than once. Although, looking at its GX attack, maybe. So, yeah. So for its only normal attack is Crush Punch, which does 130 damage, and you discard add special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Pretty good, pretty good. Especially since you can just charge it up out of nowhere. You don't have to have any energy on it to start with. You can literally just take it out of thin air. Yeah. So then you've got its GX attack, which is DD Tornado, which does 10 damage, and it does 50 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So say you've just done a Scar Charge for those 3 energy in the first turn, you can basically just do 160 damage with that. So it's only 30 more damage than your original, but if you're going for game and you need that extra damage, and you've already charged this card up with the 3 damage counters beforehand, you can basically just be just put 3 more damage counters on it. So it's got 6 damage counters on it, therefore it would do 310 damage instead, which will knock out anything. So as long as this has got, you know, a decent amount of, well, you know, I say decent, as long as it's got 4 or 5, I say 5 would be kind of like the standard, 5 damage counters on it, this Pokemon is doing insane amounts of damage with this GX move. Anyway, so onto the metal Pokemon. This is probably my favourite part. I like these metal Pokemon. I'm thinking of definitely doing like I mean, I've kind of made it. It's got a lot of proxies in it, but I've made it. It's a Genesect and Sizzle deck. Obviously the Sizzles are already out. The Genesect is in Lost Thunder, so this is a lot of like extra stuff that can go in there. Pretty cool. So we have a Skarmory with Calm Strike for a metal and a colour, does 20 plus damage. If your opponent has already used the GX attack, it does 70 more damage. For 2 energy, 90 damage, not too bad. Considering its second attack is for 3 energy, which does 90 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. This Jirachi's got a pretty interesting ability. If this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can use this ability. Once during your turn before you attack, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose one trainer card you find there, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle the other cards back into your deck. And this Pokemon's now asleep. Unfortunately, you then have to switch it out. It has got 1 retreat cost. It would be completely broken if it had a free retreat cost, because you could basically just put it to sleep and then get out of there. Actually no, you couldn't, because when you're asleep you can't do that. It would be the perfect deck to run skateboard in. Reduces your retreat cost by 1 and you can retreat even if you're asleep. Perfect. Perfect. Its other attack just does 30 damage for 1 metal and 1 colourless. But if you want to at least try and find a trainer card, it's pretty good. Like I say, if you've got a skateboard in your deck. So we have a Bronzor with an ability called Head Start Evolution. This Pokemon can evolve on the second player's first turn or on the turn you play it. Oh, or on the turn you play it. I like the fact that it says on the turn you play it, which is pretty cool. Okay, it does just 20 damage, so why would that be important, I hear you ask? Well, Bronzong has got 130 HP, which is a fairly good amount of HP, because a lot of attacks do like 120. I've noticed anyway. It has an ability called Heat Proof, which I think I've seen before. It takes no damage from your opponent's fire Pokemon's attacks, I think. Yes, I would say so, with an ability like Heat Proof, which is pretty damn good, considering its weakness is fire. That doesn't really make sense. I guess they'd have to turn the ability off, and then... But there's only so many ways... I don't even think you can turn this ability off, because it's a non-GX Pokemon. Huh, not sure. Anyway, so it has one attack that does 70 damage for 3 energy, and your opponent's active Pokemon is not confused. But it can be a really decent Pokemon to have in a deck, just because it's got that stay power against fire Pokemon. Okay, so there's a Ferroseed and a Ferrothorn. I'm just going to go straight to the Ferrothorn. It's got 120 HP with 1 energy attack called Guard Press, does 20 damage, and during your opponent's next turn this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attacks. Okay, so then 3 energy attack, colourless energy attack, Throw Pod Thrown. Thrown Pod Throw. My gosh. Does 80 damage, and this attack does 20 damage times the number of metal energy cards attached to this Pokemon to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, up to 5 energy. Okay, so you can't put more than 5 energy on it, so it basically does maximum of 100 damage to one of your opponent's bench. Okay, I understand. Which is fairly good. So we have a Pawniard and a Bishop. So the taking straight down to the Bishop has 110 HP, 1 metal energy attack called Dual Stab, does 30 damage, plus if this Pokemon doesn't have any damage counters on it, it does 90 more. Okay, and then its second attack for 3 energy just does 90 damage. Cobalion GX. This card looks so majestic. Let me just show you. So majestic. We're gonna get this in the right place now. So majestic. Anyway, so this is probably one of my favourite cards. 170 HP, a little bit on the low side, but that's because it's a fairly strong Pokemon. So its ability is called Metal Symbol. As long as this Pokemon is in play, your Pokemon with metal energy attached to them can't be affected by special conditions. Remove all special conditions on those Pokemon. So basically this is actually much better with that Jirachi, because it puts itself to sleep, but then it just completely removes the sleep, because Cobalion says nah. As long as there's metal energy attached to Jirachi, of course. Yeah, so pretty damn good. Special conditions can be a right pain in the bum, so there we go. So it's 1 attack, which is, I'm sad about that it doesn't have actually 2 attacks, but then that usually happens when a Pokemon has an ability. So it has 2 metal energy for Dual Saber, does 50 plus damage. If there's a stadium card in play, it does 60 more. It doesn't discard the stadium. So it'll always do 110 as long as there's a stadium still in play. There. So its GX attack is pretty damn cool as well. For 1 colourless energy, Iron Law GX. During your opponent's next turn, none of your opponent's Pokemon can attack, including newly played Pokemon. It's insane. You basically just get a free turn. Pretty good. I love it. Why not? So we have Honedge, Doublade, and Egg Slash. So there's usually like a theme here. Honedge does discard an energy if you flip heads from the opponent's active. Fair enough. Doublade, Tool Drop, 30 damage times the number of Pokemon tools in play. Both yours and your opponent's. See, that's fairly good in that Genesect deck, because Genesect, if you can't remember guys, lets itself have 2 Pokemon tools attached to it. So obviously this Doublade can do a bit of damage. Okay, so Aegislash. It has an ability called Royal Guard, where it takes 40 less damage from attacks. You chuck a metal frying pan on this and it's taking 70 less damage from attacks. Ouch! Which makes that 140 HP actually a lot more reasonable than you would think for a Stage 2 Pokemon. Its only attack though is 1 metal and 2 colourless. Shield Bash does 100 damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So it can hit those pesky Pokemon that say, "Oh, I can't be hit next turn." Da, 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 da. Its effects on your opponents though, not like, because Cabatlian's GX attacks, it affects your Pokemon, not the opponent's. Okay, so Klefki. Secret key ability. As long as this Pokemon is in play, your metal Pokemon's resistance becomes -40. It seems like all these metal Pokemon have resistance to Psychic, so basically Psychic decks are going to have a bad time if you include Klefki in there as a tech. Okay, so we come up to the trainers now. We have Electric Charger, where you can flip 2 coins for each heads. You search your discard pile for an Electropower, show it to your opponent, shuffle it back into your deck. Of course, you can play that as many times as you like. I personally don't think that I will ever run anything that says flip a coin to rely on that, but you know, people might. So this is the Electropower card that we were talking about earlier, where during this turn, your lightning Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. Because it says 30 more, you can basically just stack this. It even says you can play as many item cards as you like during your turn. So if you were to have all 4 in your hand, you can do a whopping 120 damage more because you've played all 4. And 4 times 30 damage is 120. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Redo the maths in my head quickly. So yeah, that's pretty big. Okay. So then we have Dangerous Drill, which is a very interesting card. You can only play this card if you discard a dark Pokemon from your hand. Okay. Discard a Pokemon tool or special energy from your opponent's Pokemon in play, or discard any Stadium card in play. Unless it's a Prism style one, because they're not affected by items or supporters. But okay. Being able to hit either tools or energy is pretty handy, but again, the cost can be okay considering Darkrai GX is still a thing that comes out from the discard pile itself, so it's not awful. This card though, pretty funny. I love its name, Metal Goggles. It might have a different name when it actually comes out in English, who knows. It's a Pokemon tool card, and you can attach this to a metal Pokemon, and it takes 30 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks, and your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and abilities can't put damage counters on it. So basically, I'm trying to think of an ability that would put damage counters in places anymore, because obviously the first one that comes to mind is the old Greninja Break, but I can't think of any right now off the top of my head.
Greninja GX when it was.
Oh yeah, Greninja GX is not even just Greninja GX, it's the whole Greninja line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Greninja line. But I say Greninja GX because it's Greninja GX basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, pretty cool. It's also its Pokemon's attacks can't do it, so it's also immune to Espeon GX as well. Espeon GX's GX attack, which says put 10 damage counters anywhere you like. It can't be hit. Okay, so then we have Nanu, which is the first support we see. Choose one of your Pokemon in play. Search your discard pile for a basic dark Pokemon, and dark Pokemon, and switch it with that Pokemon. Any attached cards, so energy or tool cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon. Discard the first Pokemon. So basically, the turns in play one is pretty much one of the most important parts of that, because you can basically just have a pretty buff Pokemon on the active, and then just be like, okay, I've got this Pokemon in my discard pile, and this basic Pokemon in my discard pile, and I've got a rare candy and say a Tyranitar in my hand. then because this Pokemon on the field that I'm swapping it with has been out for a turn, I can swap it out with a Larvitar in my discard pile and then just go straight into Tyranitar that turn. Pretty cool. I like it. Anyway, so we have Jasmine, which says search your deck for a metal Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Pretty simple. Little bit redundant as a supporter, but she does just find a Pokemon with no cost. But then, if you are the second player and use this on your first turn, she is the most amazing Bridget you've ever seen. You can search your deck for up to 5 metal Pokemon instead. Jesus. Okay, calm down there, Jasmine. Calm down. Yeah, that effect is only used on your first turn if you go second, but that's still pretty good. Because she can find evolution Pokemon, she can find basic Pokemon, she can find anything. As long as it's metal. This is the last card and also one of the most interesting. Black Market Stadium card. Is a Prism Star Stadium card. So obviously you can only have one, so it has to be a pretty powerful effect, right? Whenever each player's dark Pokemon with dark energy attached to it is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, the opponent takes 1 less prize card. Pretty cool. So you've got this big GX out and they KO it, and it's huge amount of damage needed to be able to KO it, and they only get 1 prize card. Or you've just got an entire deck of non-GXs, and as long as it's out there, not taking any prize cards but taking anything out, which is pretty nuts. Yeah, so as long as the stadium is in play, whenever a player uses an item or support card from their hand, they prevent the effects of the done to the stadium. Basically, so it's like every other Prism Star Stadium that we've seen. Anyway, thank you guys for sitting with me for 37 minutes almost. I like the look of this set so far. It's a little bit dirty because it's dark types and metal types, and they tend to be the dirty types of the TCG. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what else is going into our February set. I hope you are too. Please join me again for the next reveals and maybe openings before then. See you next time. Bye bye.